everybody! So the New York metro area just got a brand new alternative rock radio station. For the first time in, oh god, I don't know how long, maybe a decade almost? I was in grad school when we lost the last one, and it hurt a lot. Because I've always been a fan of the radio. But in listening to the new station, it doesn't actually seem like they have DJs. And that's something that sucks. It sucks a lot, because half the reason that I listen to the radio is for the voice on the radio. The DJ behind it. And I got to thinking, and I wanted to kind of give a little bit of a story time about my experiences working in radio. And I gotta preface this with, it's been a long time, and I was never a professional DJ, but I worked for my college radio station. I was there for 2.5, 3 years, something like that, and it was probably the best experience I had in undergrad. So this is kind of the story and a little bit of history about my time at WMSC. It all started, it was my sophomore year? It was my sophomore year of college, and I was friends with this girl who went by the name Ska Jenny. And Jenny was awesome. Jenny was one of the most outgoing, exuberant young women I have ever met. We've lost touch over the years. I'm not sure what she's doing right now. Last I heard, she was a yoga instructor, which, great, cool, fine. Jenny, out of the blue one day, asked me if I wanted to be her apprentice on the radio station. And I absolutely jumped at the chance. I thought this was great. I've been wanting to do it for a while, but I didn't know anybody super involved with it. So I showed up for Jenny's show one day. She had a Sunday afternoon show from 4 to 7. It was called Old World Underground, after the song by Metric. And Jenny showed me the ropes. You know, she showed me all the kind of stuff, you know, how to work the machinery, the different stuff we could play, how to live edit in case something had a curse in it. I remember one of the things we used to do was and this is really awful, but I have to admit to it, because if I don't, I'm not going to forgive myself, but we used to go into MySpace, because MySpace was still a thing at the time, and we used to find, like, the most seen people in the world, and we had a segment that was called Holy Scene Batman, and we used to just kind of like smack talk their profiles, and obviously this was radio, so you couldn't really tell who these people were and stuff like that, but the one girl whose profile we checked out was in a band and was like a really good band, and I actually used to play some of her music all the time because I was really interested in it. It sounded great. It was like a rockabilly band. The song was called Prom Night Massacre by the Snot Rockettes, which I thought was great. So I loved that song, and it was not in the best of taste to have done that, but it showed me, I learned so many different like artists and stuff like that. One of the other things that WMSC had was they used to get like promos from the different local venues, and at the time there were so many because we were really close to New York City, but we were also close enough to New Jersey's I guess it's like a medium-sized venue, Starland Ballroom. So we would get free tickets. And a lot of the time, a lot of these would go unclaimed because nobody would call up and ask for them. Because literally that's all you had to do. You had to call the station and say, hey, I'd like these tickets to go see Cursive. Or I'd like these tickets to go see the Red Walls. Which, you know, were actually bands that I got to go see. I got to go see We Are Scientists for no charge. I got to see Cursive for no charge, which at the time was akin to a religious experience to me. It was one of the most interesting and vibrant concerts I'd ever seen. And just, there was so much, it became, at the end of the semester was when I got to take my test to become a full DJ. And I was nervous because it was my first time kind of manning it by myself. But luckily, the person who gave me my test was my friend Walter. And conveniently for me, Walter's ex-girlfriend and my ex-boyfriend had cheated on us with each other. So that kind of gave us this bond. So he made sure that I was doing the right stuff and knew what I was doing in order to progress into becoming a full DJ. And I got my own show, and it was incredible. I ended up with a Sunday afternoon time slot as well. I was on Sundays from 1 to 4 in the afternoon, and to date myself, my show was called Snakes on the Airwaves, because it was right around the time that Snakes on a Plane came out. And I had so much fun with it. I started every episode with the song Face for Radio by Spiraling. I loved it. It was a great song, and I'll see if I can sneak some into this. I don't know if it'll get copyright claimed, but whatever, YouTube's demonetizing me anyway, so who gives a shit? It was cool because I had a lot of friends and acquaintances in bands, and I had probably 3 different bands at the time come to the studio to just hang out, do an acoustic set. There was actually one band that I barely knew the guys. I got to see them at the Bloomfield Ave Cafe, which again, doesn't exist, but was very formative for me. And we got to talking, and I asked them if they wanted to perform on my show, and they did. We had a great time. So those guys, I think they were, it was something about Fire was the name of their band. They didn't break out much beyond the New Jersey scene, but I really enjoyed them. My friend Sam and her band came down, and she did a small set with us. She did like parody rock at the time, and it was pretty fun.
She was fun as hell.
She was so much fun on the show. And my friend Dan and his band at the time, they were what the fuck was their band? Millennium Children. Oh god, yeah, no, their band name was terrible, but their music was fantastic. I actually still listen to that. It's on iTunes if you guys are interested, or at least it was on iTunes. I don't know if it's been pulled, but you know, just to have these live performances going on. God, I remember those guys, the Millennium Children guys, in the studio, and I might have a picture of the old studio, and if I do, I'll put it up over here. But the walls of the one section were absolutely covered with stickers, and those guys didn't have stickers yet, so they ended up taking a sanitary napkin and writing their name on it and sticking the sanitary napkin to the wall, because it was the only vaguely adhesive thing anybody had. Too punk. Much too punk. It was such an interesting experience, you know, learning how to work the boards, what songs would transition well into others. You know, you had to pick stuff. For a 3-hour set, you had to play at least 12 songs from current rotation. So I would get in there and I would cross my fingers and hope that there was a new album from a band that I really enjoyed out. Otherwise, you had to just kind of guess. And I remember at one point in time, I picked one song because it was a band that I had heard friends of mine talk about, and it was garbage. It was absolutely garbage. It was so garbage, I cut it off in the middle of the song, just as somebody was IMing the station contact to be like, hey, great song choice. And I was like, oops.
Can I share one memory?
Yeah, you can share a memory.
I used to sit with Elyse and help read out the PSAs that we had to read.
Yeah, we had to do live PSAs.
About like being really careful with your possessions and see something, say something, things like that. Elyse would also open up the back to, like, when DJs say off the back wall, it's because there really is, like, a back wall. There's a back room that has all the CDs and records and tapes and stuff in it. And it was in complete disarray.
Oh, God.
It was incredible to walk into because you knew that, like, anywhere you put your hand down, there'd be something fabulous. But it was almost impossible to find anything.
Yeah, and
Elyse played a lot of her own, like, personal CD collection. And off of her iPod, too.
That was closer to the end,
yeah,
when they actually ended up getting like an auxiliary cable. But at the time, I had several $1,000s worth of CDs that I would bring with me to and from the studio, and it was heavy. You know, and I remember one time, I have the button of the band. It was one of Jenny's friends. I don't remember his name, but they were in a band called Point Five. The button I have on my wall over there, there's two of them. He was kind enough to give me a lift from the studio all the way back to my dorm, which was halfway across campus at that point in time. Nice guy. Don't remember his name for the life of me. I think it was Chris, maybe? I don't know. Nice guy. But I don't know, I had so many good memories of learning new music and meeting new people. And having a Sunday show was nice because a lot of the time you were by yourself. The studio wasn't busy on the weekends. Nobody would come by. Hell, half the time I had to call the cops to get them to unlock the studio for me because the guy who had the
campus
show...
police.
Yeah,
not
the campus police.
911.
Which was, what you had to do because, the guy before me wouldn't show up for his show, so there would be, half an hour or 3 hours worth of dead air. And you tried so hard to avoid dead air. And I got lucky because the people who had the show after me, there were 2 DJs, and they would, live remix on air. So they always used to show up. Nice guys. Real nice guys. So my second year as a full-time DJ, I actually ended up with Jenny's old slot, the 4 to 7. And it was a little bit more difficult for me to maintain. My senior year was kind of a tough year, and I ended up having to give up my show after the first semester of senior year. And it hurt because I didn't want to do it, but I knew that I had too much work that I needed to do
to graduate.
To graduate and keep up with that. But I will always hold those memories very positively. And it's one of the reasons why, if you guys ever try to catch my streams on Twitch, which I should be doing tonight, but I'm not, it's one of the reasons why I always announce what songs played before my stream, in case you missed it. So, anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're interested in more of these storytime videos, I do them every so often, and, check them out. I'll put up a storytime, let's link to my Aphantasia video, because I feel like it kind of goes hand in hand with this. But anyway, thank you guys so much. This has been 90.3 WMSC Upper Montclair's Underground Radio. You've been talking with DJ Ninja Elyse on Snakes on the Airwaves, and we'll see you every Sunday from 4 to 7 in the afternoon. Later.
On this motherfucking plane! Times are strange. We got a free upgrade for snakes on a plane. Fuck 'em, I don't care.